Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out why 25 degrees really is hot in the UK. Did you know?
Now, with the continuing high temperatures in London,
Londoners are looking for relief from the stifling conditions.
Little hate it, the current heat wave doesn't come without problems.
When the UK struggles through a heat wave, temperatures over there can get as high as the mid-30s. For someone like me who deals with this weather for winter, that doesn't sound like much. So do the Brits just need to toughen up?
Oh, the streets are melting in Australia, y'all. Wow. Okay, 25, I just looked this up. 25 degrees Celsius is 77 degrees Fahrenheit, which, to me, 77 degrees Fahrenheit sounds pretty nice, actually. Currently, it is 73 degrees Fahrenheit, which would be 22 degrees Celsius. It sounds good, but I think it's different for other reasons. You know, temperature is just a little part of it. I hear you guys are going through a heat wave. Let's see what this Australian has to say.
I mean, we've got roads melting here in our summers. We're all used to different climates, yes, but there's more to it than that.
This video will be using Celsius, not Fahrenheit. Apologies for any inconvenience. That's okay, I'm used to it.
For starters, a heat wave is relative. Basically, it's different depending on where you are. The World Meteorological Organization loosely defines it as more than 5 consecutive days of temperatures exceeding the average max by 5 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
So in the UK, it averages about 20 degrees over the summer months, whereas in Australia, it averages about 30 degrees.
Okay. Yo, I gotta pause and convert. 68. See, that's perfect to me. That's beautiful.
This means it doesn't take as high a temperature to trigger a heatwave in the UK. If we look at other cities, in Toronto, their summers are about 25 degrees. A heatwave there is 3 consecutive days over 32 degrees. And in India, with temperatures around 35 degrees, they wouldn't call a heatwave unless the air temperature reached at least 40 degrees in plains regions. So in Australia and
35, that's up there. 95, see, that's more like where I am. I'm in Los Angeles. Actually, here, it's really dry. It's not humid. So when you're in the direct sun, if it's 95, that's hot.
in other countries with high summer temperatures, our buildings are built to keep as cool as possible. The concept is nothing new. It's called vernacular architecture, where buildings are designed based on local needs, materials, and traditions.
Makes sense,
Take a look at this
like
house.
an igloo?
This is a Queenslander found in, well, Queensland.
Okay.
They're built out of timber and on stumps. The space underneath the house helps cool the building through ventilation. There's always a wide veranda for shading and protection from heavy rains, and a corrugated iron roof, which is lightweight and durable.
The houses are raised up. That helps keep it cool? Huh. That's not what I would expect. I would expect that if it's on the ground, it would keep it cool. But what do I know, right?
And there are plenty of other examples of this type of building for your environment from around the world. This is a house from the Asia province of Saudi Arabia, where the temperature is moderate but it rains often. The protruding slates cascade rain away from the clay walls. In the Philippines, Bahay Kubo huts are built with bamboo, with sufficient ventilation for the hot summer, and raised above.
There are trees growing through this house. Look at that, trees coming out the top. That's fascinating.
Above the ground to protect against torrential flooding. The igloos of the Inuits, rondavels in Africa, and gears in Mongolia. You get the idea. And along with this, there's plenty of other architectural choices made to respond to the environment. Our public spaces include plenty of shaded areas and sufficient ventilation. Not to mention the majority of the population, about 85%, lives within 50 kilometres of the coastline, where all the major cities have developed. Meaning that even in summer, we'd get a nice sea breeze to help cool down the hot air temperature.
Okay, that's the same in Los Angeles. There's this constant breeze coming from the ocean until things change and the air starts coming from the desert. It's hot and dry. And that's when we get the fire hurricanes. Literally. Winds of fire. It's nice until it's not.
But over on the other side of the world, it's not that easy.
Keep yourself cool, drink plenty of fluids, keep out of the direct sun in the heat of the day, and also keep your home as cool as you're able to by using curtains, keeping windows open at night, and so on.
Okay.
Did you notice something he didn't mention?
Air conditioning.
Air conditioning is not really a thing in the UK.
Offices and shopping centres are more likely to have them, but they're not a given the way they'd be here in Australia and other hotter climates. They're just not needed.
That's because, like how Australian houses are built to keep cool, in the UK and other colder climates, everything is designed to keep the heat in. There aren't many overhanging eaves or awnings or shaded outdoor areas, and most windows are double glazed so that the temperature inside buildings stays as warm as possible during cold winters.
Okay, so they don't have the overhangs, which would shade the sun. Interesting. I never noticed that. Hang on. I mean, I've seen British homes a million times, right? But, well, yeah, there's a little bit of an overhang, but barely any at all. Even in these old designs, there's not much overhang at all. Just enough to keep the water from damaging the sides, I guess, right? And then the window panes are what'd she say? Double glazed. So more insulation? Double glazed windows. Oh, okay. It's 2 window panes separated by a space of air to reduce heat transfer, to keep the hot air in. Okay, yeah, makes sense. This is very interesting. I grew up in Florida, and it is hot and humid there. Now I live in California, and it's hot and dry. And there's a definite different feeling in the air. You can feel it. I go back to Florida maybe once a year, and as soon as I get off the plane in Tampa, you can feel the warm water going into your lungs. It's feels like you're surrounded by warm water, and you're breathing it in. Personally, for me, it's like a kind of nostalgic, you know? It's comforting and familiar feeling, but hot.
Double glazed so that the temperature inside buildings stays as warm as possible during cold winters. Public transport is another big one. The tube is notorious for its lack of ventilation, which means the heat generated from the trains can't escape the underground system very easily. This is fine for an English summer most of the time, but as soon as the mercury starts rising, it becomes a bit unbearable.
Oh, yeah. Same. I remember riding the subway in New York. I don't know if there's ventilation in there, but it gets hot as hell. Same in Los Angeles, subway. Hot as hell.
Rest assured, aircon is coming to the central line.
31.8, it said?
Becomes a bit unbearable.
31.8. What is that? 89.
Rest assured, aircon is coming to the central line, but in 2030.
32.
So only a few years to go then.
39.6. I gotta keep looking this because I don't know what I'm... 39.6. 103? That'll kill somebody. You could die in that, I think. Right?
This is all well and good for part of the year, but on the flip side, when it gets cold in Australia, you really feel it. Yes, even if you're from a place where sub-zero temperatures is normal.
Because the houses are designed to perform well in summer, buildings don't really retain much heat. Even though the winter months aren't as cold, with averages of about 5 degrees, most houses aren't properly insulated. The large eaves that give you welcome shade in the summer stops that same sunshine from entering in the winter. And of course, the British homes which heat up during the summer stay nice and warm during the cold winter months.
That's the other side of it, I guess, right?
The infrastructure of a city can help the temperature feel hotter or cooler than it actually is. But depending on how long we've lived in a city, our physiology can also affect the way we react to certain temperatures.
That's interesting. The human body, y'all, it's amazing. We're amazing. Just thinking about places I lived on the East Coast compared to places I live on the West Coast. And on the West Coast, there's a lot less insulation. Like the windows are just air's coming through, even when they're closed. They're not fit well, and like air can blow through. It's not like it's keeping anything in or out, really. But on the East Coast, there's weather stripping around the windows, and when you close a window, it goes, you know, there's an air seal, which I imagine is how it is in Britain. There's probably an air seal, right? My windows are open right now. What? It's 73, 22 Celsius. But inside, it feels more like maybe 65 or something, because there's no sunlight in here. Let's just check on the weather in England right now, London specifically. It's 71 degrees Fahrenheit, which feels really, I mean, that's nice. I guess the heat wave is over, right? Wait a minute. That's 21 Celsius. But what's the humidity, right? 47% humidity. What's the humidity in Los Angeles? 48%. What? It's 77 here now. Humidity's 59. It's warmer and more humid here right now. I'm more confused now than I was a moment ago. What's happening?
It's called acclimatization, and it's our body's long-term response to extreme temperatures.
So it's not just about sweating when it's hot. It's how our bodies decide when we sweat, how much we sweat, our tendency to sweat, and even the amount of salt in our sweat.
Okay.
It only takes about 2 weeks for a healthy body to acclimatize, depending on different factors. And it's faster to adapt to heat than to cold.
If you're used to a certain range of temperatures, anything outside of that range would feel uncomfortable to you. So both acclimatization and our city's infrastructure affects the way we feel temperature. And while we might think we're good at certain extremes, we could be proven otherwise. So next time you see this,
England is in the grip of a deadly heat wave, or as we in Australia like to call it, summer.
or this,
As temperatures plunge to -2 in Melbourne, Sydney braces for its coldest morning of the year this weekend.
maybe don't be so quick to judge. I'll put some links down below to some sites which will
That's so interesting. So it's more about our bodies and what we're used to. Let's check out this lady. What does she have to say?
So is the heat different in the UK compared to other parts of the world? Well, it often comes down to several factors, one of the main points being humidity. And for us in the UK, surrounded by a lot of water, we often get high humidity when we
Makes
get
sense.
heat waves.
Okay.
With that, the air is filled with water vapour. And that means that our body struggles to cool down because when we're sweating, because we're getting hot, the water cannot evaporate as easily into the atmosphere compared to dry air when it happens much easier, and that evaporation process cools our body down. Infrastructure, that's another key element. Our buildings are not designed to keep the heat out. We actually design our buildings to keep the heat in, and that's super useful for the winter months when we want to keep warm, but in the summer months that means it can trap the heat in our buildings, so it really means we struggle to cool down. You may notice sometimes in the evening you're outside enjoying the evening, it's getting cooler, a bit more comfortable, and then you go inside and it feels very hot. Cooling breezes are very useful when we have the hot weather. Sometimes when you go abroad, you might be at the seaside and you might notice a cooling breeze. If you're inland though, that's when it can get very hot. So that's when we would notice not much of a breeze. So you may not realise we actually measure air temperature in the shade, and that's so that we can measure it equally across the globe. You may also notice that when you're out in the sunshine, it feels so much hotter. That's because you're in the direct sunlight.
That makes sense.
And that's why you will see temperatures that on thermometers that are in direct sunlight much higher. You may have noticed that in your car reading.
Also, when it's humid, water droplets in the air, when they're in the sun, they get warm and they carry the warmth into the shade when they blow into the shade, right?
Much higher
That's how
than
I
it
understand.
actually is. Another factor might be clothing. Certainly in the UK, if we've got a heat wave during the week, people may be wearing office clothes, layers, having to wear something that they perhaps wouldn't wear when they were on holiday, much cooler clothing, so that can have a big impact on how it feels. But I think probably the biggest difference is when you're abroad, you're by the pool, you might have a cool drink in hand, it's always going to feel cooler.
That makes sense. Okay. Let's just look at the weather in, let's say, Glasgow, Scotland. 66 Fahrenheit. Oh, that's nice, y'all. Heck yeah. I mean, I guess it's nighttime there now, right? What time is it? What time is it, more? 7:54 p.m. Down to 58 at 11. That's nice. 56. Oh, it's getting chilly. Oh my God, down to 52 at 5 a.m. Wow. And there's some rain coming. I know there were some wildfires happening in Scotland, right? Is that still happening? This is from Yesterday, firefighters battle raging flames as wildfire spreads from campsite, becoming a danger to human life. Wildfires burning in the Scottish Highlands in early July stretched firefighters thin. This is becoming a danger to human life because firefighters are becoming so stretched dealing with wildfires that they don't have the resources to attend other fires. The fires are coinciding with a major heat wave that struck Europe at the start of the second month of meteorological summer. The record-breaking early July heat wave killed at least 1,500 people. Wow. A surge of scorching heat was forecast to arrive for the second weekend of July in Scotland. Man, in the United States, we got all kinds of weird weather stuff going on. We got floods in Texas, North Carolina, I think. There's a heat wave over there on the East Coast. On the West Coast, it's dry. We've got wildfires. Too much water on the East Coast, not enough water on the West Coast is pretty typical in the States. Wow. Stay cool over there, y'all. It sounds like it looks like the heat is over. Sort of. Right? For now. Hopefully. Let's check out Liverpool. 66. Okay. A little bit of rain. That's good. Okay. Hey. Alright. It looks like things are back to normal. What I'm gathering from this video and looking at the temperatures and everything, it's a lot more about what your body's used to. That makes a huge difference. A friend of mine just went to Phoenix, Arizona, and it was 119 degrees there, which is 48 degrees Celsius, if you can imagine. 48. Like, you can't, like, you shouldn't go outside at all, right? You don't go out there. Unless you're by the ocean or you have a pool, you know? Or an igloo, or a vat of ice that you're going to jump into. Don't go out there. You know, it's so funny, the whole conversation around climate change is mostly a debate about whether human beings are affecting the global temperatures. And I think, like, it doesn't matter what's causing it. It's happening. So let's learn to deal with it, right? That shouldn't be a political thing. But I guess it is, because we got the oil companies lobbying, lawmakers, there's money involved. Let's not get political. I don't want to get political. Anyway.
Warmer, wetter, faster. The UK's weather is getting more extreme, and that is the new normal. Such is the pace of change, according to a new report from the Met Office, that our climate today is not just vastly different to, say, the 1960s, but it's even different to that of just 10 years ago.
Wow.
So the 3 heat waves we've just had, that may be seen as a bit extreme by today's standards, but in a few decades, those heat waves will just be a normal summer.
We're warming by about 1/4 of a degree per decade, and the last 3 years for the UK, in records that go back to 1884, have been among the 5 warmest on record.
And as the climate warms, it's also becoming wetter, with more and more counties in recent decades seeing monthly downpours that are double the average and more frequently.
What is happening here? Is this foam from the ocean? Wow.
In late November last year, Storm Bert brought heavy rain and strong winds to parts of South Wales. And at the start of 2024, there was widespread flooding following a long string of storms, such as Storm Babet, Kieran, Debbie and Aisha.
Yo, it's happening here too. We're all dealing with it. Texas just had a flood, and I think 100 and, gosh, I don't know what the number is now. It's over 100 people. And 20-something young girls at a Camp Mystic. It's horrible.
As the report states, floods and storms still cause the worst severe weather impacts here in the UK.
We absolutely feel a sense of urgency. And when we read a report like the one out today, we know we must act.
Yes.
Here's the mean temperature for the UK over the last century. As you can see, it's risen particularly sharply since 1990.
Wow.
And taking 2024 into account, it was the 4th warmest year on record. And so, digging down, 8 of the 12 months of the year were warmer than the average, including the 2nd warmest February and the warmest May. And this chart shows projections for the future, with the Met Office writing that the rise in the annual mean temperature has been consistent with projections.
Okay, y'all. Okay. I think most of us will be dead by 2080.
And that means that the
maybe
warm
not.
weather of last year and this summer so far would likely be considered average by the 2050s and cool by the end of the century.
Let's be clear here.
It'll be considered cool by the end of the century.
This is something that is not going to go away. It is going to affect us. It's going to affect our children, and it's going to affect generations to come. And the science on this couldn't really be clearer.
What do you do? Where do you go? Nowhere safe. We gotta go underground, maybe. Let's start digging, y'all.
We've already seen dozens of wildfires in 2025, with the area burnt by them so far higher than the total for any other year in more than a decade.
More land has been burned this year so far than any year. Oh my God.
And of course, that is a sight seen across Europe, with wildfires in Turkey, Greece, Spain and France. A warming UK, a warming Europe, a warming planet. Damaging changes leading to extreme crises for our health, our infrastructure and society in general. And yet amidst all this, a backlash to plans to tackle climate change. President Trump has ushered in a new wave of anti-climate change talk and pro-fossil fuel rhetoric, once again withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accord.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry.
Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch said in a speech in March that net
Release the list.
zero cannot be achieved by the government target of 2050 without a serious drop in our living standards or by bankrupting us.
Responsible leaders don't indulge in fictions which are going to make families poorer.
And Nigel Farage's Reform Party, currently leading in the polls, is proposing scrapping all net zero measures. Ed Miliband, who visited a floodplain restoration project last week along with the Environment Secretary, has called out those he accuses of betraying future generations.
To those who would say, let's just abandon our attempts to tackle the climate crisis, I believe that would be the wrong thing for the country. I think that would be a betrayal of today's generations and future generations. Today's generations, because it undermines our energy security. We need secure homegrown energy, not to be dependent on fossil fuels controlled by petrostates and dictators. And it's a betrayal of future generations, because we will leave them a terrible legacy. I don't think that's what the British people want. That's certainly not what this government wants, and that's why we're acting.
Politics is famously a short-term business with a focus on the next election, not the long-term changes to our planet. But given the exponential pace of our warming climate, the next election will most certainly be in a year of yet more extremes. So joining me now is Adrian Ramsey MP, who is also the co-leader of the Green Party of England and Wales. Adrian, I just want to...
Okay, I don't want to watch the rest of this. That was a good summary of what's up. Y'all, I hope you're staying cool. I hope you're staying kind to each other. You know, let's be nice to each other. The heat gets to us. It makes us feel like we're dying, and that can make us be mean to each other, right? Damn. Just, be thankful you don't have tornadoes over there. Hurricanes. It could be a lot worse. We're all connected, right? We all have to deal, the weather of one place affects the weather of another place, right? Well, y'all, sorry if this video was a bummer, but, it's important to think about. Anyway, I'd like to thank my patrons. I'd like to thank my Buy Me a Coffee folks. Thank y'all for watching this with me, and I'll see you next time. Later.